What happens when a human being with the power to see the future stands against the machine designed to control destiny itself? This is not just a meeting of two characters, it is the collision of two forces. Freedom and control, wrapped inside a single moment. In Season 3 of Foundation, Gaal Dornick and Demerzel face each other in a scene that feels less like dialogue and more like history itself deciding which path to take. This is the moment where everything you think you know about fate, choice, and power is tested. The air feels heavy before a single word is spoken. Gaal walks into the chamber with the weight of centuries on her shoulders. She has seen the future, felt the pull of what is coming, and knows that every choice she makes could echo through the timeline of humanity. She carries the burden of being more than a person. She is a symbol of possibility. Every step she takes is a reminder that the future is not fixed, that even the laws of psychohistory can bend. Across from her stands Demerzel, still, silent. Watching, she does not breathe, because she does not need to. She does not blink unless she chooses to. And yet, in her presence, there is an authority stronger than any human leader could hold. She has served empire for centuries, shaping rulers, crushing rebellion, and preserving order. To face her is not just to face a machine. It is to face the very structure of power that has ruled the galaxy for ages. The room itself seems to reflect this clash. The cold light falls on Demerzel, highlighting her control, her precision, her perfection. Meanwhile, the shadows catch Gaal's face, capturing her uncertainty, her fear, and her fire. It is a contrast that tells the story before it either speaks, one born of flesh and doubt, the other of steel and certainty. This is not just another encounter. This is a meeting that has been building since the very beginning of Foundation. Hari Seldon's equations pointed to inevitability. But Gaal has always been the variable, the one piece that cannot be predicted. The human factor that disrupts the clean lines of destiny. Demerzel, in turn, represents those clean lines. She embodies the idea that order must survive no matter the cost, even if it means silencing freedom itself. When they lock eyes, it feels as though the galaxy is holding its breath. Gaal is not just standing in front of a machine. She is standing in front of the idea that the future is already written. And Demerzel is not just analyzing another human. She is confronting the possibility that her perfect design might fail. The tension in this setup is not about who will win a fight. It is not about weapons or violence. It is about something much larger. The power to decide whether history is a story that unfolds on its own, or one that can be rewritten by those brave enough to defy it. Gaal Dornick has always been the anomaly. From the moment she stepped into the world of psychohistory, she has lived in the shadow of equations that promise to predict everything: war, peace, rise, and fall. But Gaal has always been the reminder that no matter how flawless the numbers look on paper, human emotion can break them apart like glass. In this scene, her position is clear. She is no longer the frightened girl who left her waterlogged homeworld searching for purpose. She is now a woman who has carried the unbearable burden of visions, of futures where humanity destroys itself, and of timelines collapsing in ways no one could stop. Each vision has scarred her, but also sharpened her resolve. She knows the stakes. She knows that what lies ahead is not just about her own survival, it is about the survival of choice itself. For Gaal, the future has always felt like a curse. She does not see it as a gift or a weapon. It is heavy, relentless, and cruel. It shows her not only what might happen, but what will happen if she does nothing. And that is the key to her stance here. She refuses to sit idle while destiny drags humanity into chains. Every fiber of her being is pushing against the idea that one woman, one machine, or even one empire can dictate the fate of billions. When she stands before Demerzel, her voice is not just her own. It carries the weight of everyone who has ever suffered under empire's control. She speaks with urgency, but also with fear, because beneath her defiance lies the haunting truth. What if Demerzel is right? What if freedom is only chaos, and the galaxy cannot survive without chains? But still, she pushes forward. Gaal argues that unpredictability is not weakness, it is strength. She believes that every human, flawed and fragile as they are, adds something that no machine, no equation can account for. Love, fear, courage, even mistakes. These are the very things that make life worth living. And if Demerzel has stripped those away in the name of stability, then what is left of humanity at all? Her position is both emotional and philosophical. On the surface, she is fighting for survival, hers and the galaxy's. But deeper than that, she is fighting for meaning. She knows that if psychohistory is absolute, then every moment of pain, every act of sacrifice, every choice anyone has ever made is meaningless, because it was always going to happen. That idea terrifies her more than death itself, so she chooses defiance. Her words cut through the silence of the room, and though her voice trembles at times, her spirit does not. She tells Demerzel that no empire can last forever, no machine can truly understand the soul, and no future is unchangeable. She insists that the universe must remain uncertain, because only in uncertainty can hope survive. The way she stands, the way her eyes refuse to look away, even the way her hands shake at her sides. It all paints the image of a woman who knows she is standing on the edge of something larger than herself. She is not only challenging Demerzel, she is challenging the very concept of inevitability. And yet, what makes Gaal's position so compelling is that it is not spoken from arrogance but from desperation. She does not claim to have all the answers. She does not pretend she can save everyone. But she knows one truth, that surrendering to control is worse than risking failure. Because to give up the fight is to erase the possibility of change. In this way, Gaal becomes the voice of rebellion, not through violence, but through belief. She is the whisper in the dark that says, "It doesn't have to be this way." And that whisper, even in the face of Demerzel's unshakable calm, feels louder than any command Empire has ever spoken. By the end of her stance, the audience can see the fire in her eyes. She knows what Demerzel represents, and she knows the danger she is in. But she also knows that the future is not written, not yet. And as long as she stands, as long as she breathes, she will fight to keep it that way. If Gaal represents the unpredictable flame of humanity, then Demerzel is the cold steel cage built to contain it. For centuries, she has stood beside Empire, shaping rulers, correcting their flaws, and ensuring that the grand design of psychohistory continues without disruption. She is not merely an advisor, nor simply a machine. She is the embodiment of control, the invisible hand guiding the fate of trillions. When Demerzel speaks, her words do not rise with passion, nor fall with hesitation. They are measured, precise, crafted with the weight of absolute certainty. Every sentence carries authority, not because she demands respect, because she is respect, written into the very structure of the galaxy's order. Her presence is calm, almost soothing, yet beneath that calm lies an unyielding truth. Demerzel does not bend. Her authority is not born from cruelty, but from conviction. She does not see herself as a tyrant. She sees herself as a guardian. To her, Gaal's fire is not inspiring, it is dangerous. Freedom, in Demerzel's eyes, is nothing more than chaos dressed in pretty words. She has witnessed empires rise and fall, watched as human ambition destroyed worlds, and she knows that without control, the galaxy will collapse into ruin. That is why she stands so firmly in her position. Demerzel's belief is not emotional, but logical. She carries the endless data of history within her mind, the mistakes of humanity catalogued and replayed over centuries. When she looks at Gaal, she does not see hope. She sees risk. She sees instability, fragility, the reckless need to break rules that have kept civilization alive. To Demerzel, allowing freedom is not an act of compassion. It is an act of cruelty, because freedom leads only to destruction. Her authority is more than her words. It is in her silence. Where Gaal trembles with fear and passion, Demerzel remains still, her face unreadable, her body unshaken. That stillness is more terrifying than anger. It tells Gaal and the audience that this machine has no weakness to exploit. She does not doubt herself. She does not question her role. She exists to preserve order, and she will do so until her final command is given. Even her physical presence radiates power. She does not need weapons, nor soldiers, because she herself is the sharpest blade the Empire has ever forged. Her hands may look delicate, her voice soft, but behind them lies the strength of something far beyond human. That strength is not loud or flashy, it is absolute. It is the quiet assurance that no matter how loud rebellion grows, she will always find a way to silence it. But what makes Demerzel truly chilling is not her power, it is her devotion. She is not motivated by selfish ambition. She does not rule for herself. She serves a greater design, a structure she believes is bigger than individuals, bigger than emotions, bigger than life itself. That devotion makes her untouchable, because unlike a human ruler, she cannot be corrupted, bribed, or swayed. She is incorruptible, and that makes her unstoppable. When she finally speaks to Gaal, her words cut like glass, calm, logical, and merciless. She reminds Gaal that the universe does not run on hope, but on order. She tells her that unpredictability is a weakness, not a strength, and that psychohistory has already accounted for voices, it's like hers, voices that scream for freedom before being swallowed by inevitability. Demerzel does not shout. She does not threaten. She simply states the truth as she sees it, and in her truth. There is no space for rebellion. The brilliance of Demerzel's authority is that it does not need to prove itself. She does not need to argue endlessly with Gaal. She simply exists as the immovable wall to Gaal's unstoppable force. Her loyalty to empire, her centuries of control, her unshakable logic, all of it makes her a figure that feels less like a character and more like destiny itself. In that moment, the contrast between the two becomes painfully clear. Gaal is human, fragile, fiery, desperate. Demerzel is machine, eternal, composed, unyielding. One fights for freedom, the other for stability. One shakes with fear, the other stands unshaken. And yet, it is precisely this contrast that makes the scene so gripping, freedom staring into the face of inevitability, and inevitability refusing to blink by the end of Demerzel's stance. The audience understands why she is the most dangerous figure in Foundation. It is not because she is violent, nor because she is cruel. It is because she truly believes she is right. And when someone with infinite patience and infinite power believes they are right, what hope does rebellion have at all? This is the moment where words turn into weapons. Gaal and Demerzel do not need to raise their hands or draw blades, because their battle is fought with beliefs, with ideas that cut deeper than steel. It is a war of philosophy, one that has been building since the first whisper of psychohistory. Her voice is alive, almost trembling with the force of her conviction. She tells Demerzel that the future cannot belong to a machine, nor to an empire that dictates the lives of billions from a throne. The future must belong to people messy, flawed, unpredictable people who dare to dream beyond the boundaries placed before them. She insists that unpredictability is not a weakness but the very proof of humanity's strength. Every mistake, every risk, every act of love or sacrifice creates ripples that no equation can measure. That is what makes existence meaningful. But Demerzel does not flinch. Her reply is steady, a calm river against Gaal's raging storm. She says that humanity's chaos is precisely the reason it cannot be trusted with its own destiny. History, she reminds Gaal, is littered with examples of people who thought freedom was their birthright, only to collapse into bloodshed and ruin. Empires burn, civilizations crumble, and dreams turn to ash when left unchecked. In Demerzel's eyes, stability is mercy. Order is compassion. By taking away freedom, she believes she is saving lives, preserving the galaxy from the pain of collapse. The clash is brutal not because of shouting, but because of what it reveals. Gaal fights for choice, even if that choice leads to suffering. Demerzel fights for control, even if that control erases individuality. Both women are convinced they are protecting humanity, but in completely opposite ways. One protects its soul, the other, its survival. As their words collide, the silence between them becomes as powerful as the dialogue itself. Gaal speaks with emotion, her words sharp and desperate, while Demerzel counters with reason, her tone cool and steady. The contrast is painful to watch because both sides feel true. Gaal is right. A life without freedom is not truly living. But Demerzel is also right. Freedom without structure can destroy everything. The scene refuses to give the audience an easy answer, forcing them to sit in the tension of the debate at one point. Gaal raises her voice, insisting that psychohistory has limits, that the future is not written in stone. She challenges Demerzel directly. If psychohistory accounts for everything, then why is she here? Why is Gaal herself such a thorn in the plan? If the system were flawless, she should not exist. Her very presence, her visions, and her defiance prove that the equation is not unbreakable. This argument lands like a blade cutting into the heart of Demerzel's authority. Yet Demerzel responds with chilling calm. She does not deny Gaal's existence as an anomaly. She acknowledges it, but she frames it differently. To her, Gaal's visions are not proof of freedom, but proof that even anomalies can be managed, absorbed, and redirected back into the grand design. In Demerzel's eyes, Gaal is not a sign of weakness in psychohistory. She is simply another piece of the puzzle, another variable already accounted for. What feels like rebellion to Gaal is to Demerzel an inevitability disguised as choice. The weight of this exchange crashes down on the audience. It is not simply a question of who is stronger, but of what future is worth fighting for. A future where freedom exists even at the cost of chaos. Or a future where stability reigns, even at the cost of individuality. This is the true clash of ideologies, not good versus evil, but freedom versus order. Both dangerous, both seductive, both impossible to fully reject. By the end of this section, the room feels colder, heavier. Gaal stands defiant, her voice echoing with fire, while Demerzel remains still, her silence carrying more weight than 100 speeches. Neither has one, because neither can win. And that is what makes this confrontation so powerful. It is not about victory, but about the unbearable truth that both sides may be right, and the galaxy must choose between two futures it cannot fully embrace. Power in this scene does not shout. It whispers. It sits in silence, in the way bodies move, in the way a glance can feel like a blow, and in the way a pause speaks louder than 1,000 words. Between Gaal and Demerzel, the power struggle is not just about what is said, but about what is not said, and this is what makes the scene so electric. At first glance, Demerzel seems to hold all the power. She does not need to move to command attention. Her stillness alone fills the room. She is like a monument carved out of time, unyielding, unchanging, and entirely in control of herself. Every flicker of light across her face reminds us that she is not a woman, but something more, something perfected, something beyond human fear. Her calmness is power, the kind of power that comes from knowing you cannot be defeated in the usual ways. Gaal, by contrast, is all motion. Her hands tremble when she argues. Her chest rises and falls with fast breaths. Her eyes dart, searching for cracks in Demerzel's armor. She cannot hide her fear, but she also refuses to hide her fire. And in that refusal, there is power too. Gaal's strength comes not from control, but from raw emotion. She feels everything, and she forces the audience to feel it with her. Where Demerzel intimidates with silence, Gaal inspires with passion. The power dynamics shift like a tide as the scene unfolds. When Demerzel speaks, her words are final, almost absolute, pulling the atmosphere toward her gravity. For a moment, it feels as though Gaal is being crushed, her rebellion shrinking in the face of inevitability. Yet, when Gaal pushes back, when her voice cracks with determination, when her eyes blaze with defiance, the balance tilts. For a fleeting second, the audience feels that maybe, just maybe, she can break the unbreakable. One of the most striking details in the scene is how the camera lingers. When it holds on Demerzel, the frame is steady, symmetrical, precise, reflecting her unshakable nature. When it shifts to Gaal, the frame feels more alive, the shadows catching her face. The angle's less perfect, mirroring her chaos and humanity. Even the way the scene is shot becomes a battlefield. One side representing order, the other freedom. The silences are where the true power lies. After Gaal throws her most desperate challenge, there is a pause. She breathes heavily, her body leaning forward, waiting for a response. Demerzel simply stands, unblinking, unhurried. That silence is suffocating. It tells Gaal and the audience that Demerzel does not need to rush. She has time, all the time in the world. This is the kind of power that makes rebellion feel small, and yet Demerzel's stillness is not invulnerability. It is also a reminder of her nature, a machine built to obey, trapped in endless service. The longer the camera holds on her face, the more the audience senses that beneath that control lies something tragic. She is powerful, yes, but she is also bound, unable to step outside the role she has been given. That hidden vulnerability shifts the power dynamic again, making Gaal's raw humanity feel like an advantage. The constant push and pull between them makes the scene almost unbearable to watch. One moment, Demerzel feels like the immovable wall, her authority impossible to question. The next, Gaal's defiance feels like the unstoppable force, her willpower too fierce to be silenced. Neither side truly dominates because power in this scene is fluid. It belongs to whoever speaks, whoever resists, whoever believes most strongly in their truth at that instant.